This is the story of how Mykhailo Drapatyi, a 43-year-old tank commander known as the Flying BMP, a man who once drove an infantry fighting vehicle straight through a Russian roadblock at full speed, just became the most dangerous military commander in Europe. And the first thing he did was promise to bring the war deeper into Russia than ever before. On July 20th, 2026, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky dismissed General Syrskyi as Commander-in-Chief of Ukraine's armed forces and replaced him with Major General Mykhailo Drapatyi. The appointment followed days of street protests across Ukraine, a political crisis that shook the wartime government to its core, and a fundamental disagreement about how this war should actually be fought. Within 24 hours of taking the job, Drapatyi announced he had been tasked with stepping up counteroffensive actions and launching new operations inside Russia. The Kremlin said it wasn't worried. Russian war bloggers said the opposite. And Ukrainian soldiers, for the first time in months, said they had hope. To understand why this appointment matters, you need to understand the man. And to understand the man, you need to go back to a single moment, on a single day, in a city that would later become synonymous with devastation. May 9th, 2014. Mariupol. Russian-backed militants were attempting to seize control of the city. Barricades blocked key roads. Armed separatists held checkpoints. The Ukrainian military needed to retake the city, and a major named Mykhailo Drapatyi was commanding the 2nd Mechanized Battalion of the 72th Separate Mechanized Brigade. What happened next was captured on video and became one of the defining images of the early war in Donbass. Drapatyi's BMP-2, flying a blue and yellow Ukrainian flag, charged straight through a Russian-backed roadblock at full speed. No hesitation, no negotiation, just a 40-ton infantry fighting vehicle smashing through barriers while militants scattered in every direction. The video spread immediately. People started calling him the Flying BMP. It became a meme, a symbol, and the first chapter in a military career that would eventually land him the top job in the Ukrainian armed forces. Born on November 20, 1982, in Kamyanets-Podilsky, in the Khmelnytsky Oblast, Drapatyi chose a military path early. He trained at the Kharkiv Tank Troops Institute and received his lieutenant's commission in 2004 during Ukraine's Orange Revolution. His first posting was as a tank platoon leader in the 72th Separate Mechanized Brigade in Bila Tserkva, and 26 years of continuous service followed from there. Tank lieutenant to battalion commander to brigade commander to operational group leader, then commander of the Southern Group of Troops, then commander of the Ukrainian Ground Forces, then commander of the Ukraine's Joint Forces, and now commander-in-chief. The third man to hold that position in this war, following Valery Zelensky and General Syrskyi. That succession, Zelensky, then Syrskyi, now Drapatyi, tells you something about how Ukraine's command philosophy has evolved under the pressure of full-scale war. And that's 26 years in uniform, which means he's literally spent more than half his life in the Ukrainian military. And unlike generals who build careers in staff positions and headquarters buildings, Drapatyi built his reputation on the front line. He was in Mariupol in 2014. He was commanding southern operations when Russia launched its full-scale invasion on February 24, 2022. He has been in this war, in one form or another, for over 12 years. But what truly sets Drapatyi apart from his predecessors isn't just his combat record. It's his philosophy of command. There's a quote from him that tells you everything you need to know. After a devastating Russian missile strike hit a Ukrainian army training ground on June 1, 2025, Drapatyi, who was then commander of the ground forces, submitted his resignation. Not because he was forced to, not because of political pressure. He submitted it voluntarily, and he said this: "An army in which no one is held accountable is dying from within." Consider that for a moment. A senior general in the middle of the largest land war in Europe since World War II, voluntarily offered to step down because soldiers under his broader responsibility were killed, and he believed someone needed to own that. That's almost unheard of in any military, let alone one fighting for its survival. He followed that with another statement that cut even deeper. The military needs change, but without justice, no change will make sense to the people who carry this war on their shoulders every day. His resignation wasn't accepted. Instead, 2 days later, on June 3, 2025, he was promoted to Commander of Joint Forces. The message from Zelensky was clear. He didn't want a general who deflected blame. He wanted one who absorbed it. And that brings us to the crisis that put Drapatyi at the top. To understand the shakeup of July 2026, you have to understand the collision between two fundamentally different visions of how Ukraine should fight this war. On one side stood Mykhailo Fedorov, appointed defense minister in January 2026. Fedorov was a reformist, a technologist who believed Ukraine's path to survival ran through drones, asymmetric warfare, and innovation. He pushed hard for the drone assault troops concept, for the unmanned systems forces, and for a strategy that leveraged Ukraine's strengths in technology rather than trying to match Russia, soldier for soldier. On the other side stood General Syrskyi. He embodied a more traditional, centralized command model, and a source close to Zelensky's office described the conflict between the two men as a clash between a reformist, humane approach and what they called a Soviet-style general's approach. Where Fedorov was pushing the drone revolution, Syrskyi was widely seen as an assault general who saw only one path forward: infantry attacks. The tension had been building for months, and it went public in mid-July 2026. On July 15th, Fedorov was dismissed as defense minister. The very next day, Ukrainians took to the streets. Protests erupted in Kyiv and spread across the country, with people opposing Fedorov's removal and demanding Syrskyi's resignation. For a nation at war, where public dissent carries real risks, and unity is treated as a matter of national survival, the scale of those protests was extraordinary. They continued for days. On July 21st, Zelensky acted. Syrskyi was out. Drapatyi was in. The choice was deliberate. Drapatyi represented a third way, neither purely the technologist's vision nor the Soviet-era infantry doctrine. He was a combat commander who embraced innovation, a soldier-first leader who understood drones, a general who believed in decentralized command and trusted his subordinates to make decisions in the field. As one captain serving in eastern Ukraine told NBC News, he belongs to a new generation of officers who came of age during this war. Syrskyi, for his part, pushed back on the narrative. "I was surprised to learn that the minister and I had been in conflict," he said after his dismissal. "I regarded our relationship as a professional one, with difficult issues and differing views. That is exactly how it should be between two institutions during a full-scale war. Whether you take that at face value probably depends on which side of the debate you stand on." Now, let's look at what Drapatyi actually promised. Upon being named Commander-in-Chief, he said the military would continue and intensify offensive operations in all domains as Kyiv seeks to pressure Russian forces. The following day, July 22nd, he announced he had been specifically tasked with stepping up counteroffensive actions and launching new operations inside Russia, including, according to the Ukrainian General Staff, expanded operations in Kursk Oblast, the cross-border campaign that Ukraine first launched in August 2024 and has sustained ever since. But he also posted something more measured on Facebook. "Difficult work lies ahead, so we will proceed without loud promises, with responsibility for our decisions and respect for the people who are holding the front line and helping Ukraine endure." That combination, the iron fist wrapped in genuine humility, is exactly what made the appointment so significant. He's not promising miracles. He's promising intensity, accountability, and respect for the people doing the actual fighting. Then came the more controversial remarks. According to the Ukrainian news outlet Strana, UA, Drapatyi said that Russia could hardly be described as a neighbor and claimed the Russian nation has no right to exist, alleging it is not a civilized nation. Those words sent shockwaves through Moscow. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov responded directly, "I don't think this will lead to any changes on the front lines." He added, with barely concealed menace, "Of course, I have no doubt that one way or another he will answer for his words." Here's what's interesting, though. While the Kremlin publicly dismissed the appointment as irrelevant, Russian war bloggers told a very different story. Pro-Russian blogger Yuri Podolyaka noted with unmistakable alarm, "By the way, Drapatyi is only 43, and he began this war as a battalion commander. That's bad for us." Other Russian social media users described the new commander-in-chief as someone who hates our soldiers and hates them consistently. The gap between the Kremlin's official indifference and the genuine concern among people who actually track the battlefield was impossible to miss. One Russian commentator put it plainly, "The 43-year-old Drapatyi does look like a more dangerous adversary than Syrskyi, and the numbers suggest they're right to worry." Even before Drapatyi took command, Ukraine's deep strike operations in the first 6 months of 2026, as of July 2026, had hit 697 targets inside Russia, costing Russia an estimated $6.1 billion. The unmanned systems forces, led by Commander Robert Magyar Brovdy, increased strikes deep inside Russian operational and strategic territory by 1,150%. Drones like the long-range Lyuty and the close-range Beaver FPV have become the backbone of this campaign. Cheap, precise, and increasingly lethal. In June alone, operators carried out 2,359 deep strike missions at ranges between 500 and 2,000 kilometers, successfully hitting 172 military, industrial, and fuel and energy facilities inside Russia. Ukraine's long-range drones are now striking targets up to 1,200 miles inside Russian territory, hitting oil refineries and fuel depots. The strategy has shifted fundamentally. Rather than seeking stabilization or breakthrough at the front, Kyiv is now targeting the economic, logistical, and social systems that sustain Russian forces in the field. It's systemic attrition executed with drones that cost a fraction of conventional missiles. At the 2026 NATO summit in Ankara, Zelensky stated that nearly 28,000 Russian soldiers were eliminated in June alone, with the vast majority targeted by drones. In a single 24-hour period leading up to July 10th, Russian forces lost 1,460 troops, 52 artillery systems, and 2 air defense systems. Since the start of the full-scale invasion, Russia's estimated personnel losses have climbed to roughly 1.4 million casualties, with up to 450,000 deaths. The cost to Ukraine has been immense as well. Ukrainian forces have suffered between 525,000 and 625,000 casualties and between 125,000 and 150,000 fatalities since February 2022. The UN has verified over 65,000 civilian casualties, including more than 16,000 killed. In the first 6 months of 2026 alone, civilian casualties climbed 37% compared to the same period the previous year, and nearly doubled what was documented in 2024. This is the reality Drapatyi inherits. A war of staggering human cost on both sides. A war where Ukraine has clawed back 700 square kilometers of territory this year, while losing soldiers and civilians at an accelerating rate. A war that demands not just tactical skill, but moral courage. The willingness to make decisions that will cost lives while working desperately to save them. Zelensky has laid out a demanding mandate: Drapatyi and other senior commanders must present an updated defense strategy covering continued reform of the core system, faster weapon and drone deliveries, stronger air defense against Russian strikes, and a clearer mobilization plan. This isn't a blank check. It's a detailed set of deliverables from a president who has learned, at terrible cost, that the wrong leader in the wrong position can mean thousands of lives lost. The appointment also carries symbolic weight that shouldn't be underestimated. Drapatyi is widely seen as a reform-minded, soldier-first commander whose habit of publicly owning failures made him the natural counterweight to Syrskyi's centralized, old-world style. He welcomes initiative from the ranks. He works to keep his soldiers alive. He holds the full order of Bohdan Khmelnytsky across 3 separate awards: the Cross of Military Merit, and a firearms award from the Ministry of Defense. These aren't participation trophies. These are decorations earned across 12 years of active conflict. He's married with 2 children, a son and a daughter. Those details humanize a man who now carries the weight of a nation's survival on his shoulders. So where does this leave us? Ukraine has emerged from a grave wartime political crisis with a new army chief and what observers are describing as renewed optimism about the future of its fight against Russia. The street protests worked. The people demanded change. Zelensky listened. And the man now leading Ukraine's military is someone who charges through roadblocks, resigns when soldiers die on his watch, and has promised to take the fight deeper into Russia than ever before. The Kremlin says nothing will change. But the Kremlin has been wrong before. It was wrong about the 3-day invasion. It was wrong about Ukrainian resolve. It was wrong about whether Western weapons would make a difference. And it may very well be wrong about Mykhailo Drapatyi. Because here's what Russia is actually facing: a commander who has been fighting them for 12 years, who knows their tactics intimately because he's been on the receiving end of them since Mariupol in 2014, who embraces drone warfare and technological innovation while understanding the brutal realities of ground combat, who holds himself accountable in ways Russian generals simply don't, and who has just told the world, in the clearest terms possible, that he intends to escalate. Difficult work lies ahead, that's what he said. Without loud promises, with responsibility, with respect. Those aren't the words of a man who's bluffing. They're the words of a man who has spent his entire adult life preparing for exactly this moment. And Russia, for all its public dismissiveness, knows it. You could hear it in Podolyaka's warning. You could see it in the war blogger's alarm. You could feel it in Peskov's thinly veiled threat. The flying BMP is now in charge, and he's not slowing down.